All right, good morning, everybody, on this chilly winter morning. As we come into the middle, I think today is the peak of winter. The 21st of June was the peak, which was yesterday. I would love to welcome all those who are present with us, who are listening in, for joining us on our fourth week of our online Seriti Talks. I'd like to welcome Eric and Nombuso, who are speakers for today. And they are speaking from Footprints Foundation. And so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves so everyone can get to know you. And then we'll get into the discussion about the work that you do. So I'll start with ladies first. Nombuso, could you give us a little bit of just a summary of who you are, where you're from, and the work that you're doing at Footprints Foundation?
Okay. All right, so I am Nombuso Mashele. I am originally from Matsulu, which is in Nelspruit in Mpumalanga province, but I currently reside in Johannesburg. I have a law degree, an LLB degree from the University of Johannesburg, and recently completed my master's in labor law. And I work for Footprints Foundation as the project manager.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. And then Eric, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Morning, everyone. I'm not sure what should I say after Nombuso, because I was supposed to say what. I'm a first-year student, LLB student with UNISA. I'm from Limpopo province. And I'm a journalist by profession. And I have worked in the developmental space for more than 10 years now. Founded Footprints Foundation. And yeah, we really enjoy working with young kids and especially girls.
Okay, thank you. So yes, tell us about Footprints Foundation. So you being the founder, Eric, how long has the organization been running for? What inspired you to sort of get it off the ground? What assistance did you get? And how long has it been around? Where are you guys situated in Johannesburg? If you can speak a little bit closer to your mic or to turn up the volume, that will be helpful as well. Thank you.
So the foundation turns 5 this year, in November. And I think the genesis is just the work that one was involved in while I was working for the UN. I got an opportunity to travel around the country and establish gender-based structures for the UN. And that got me to deep involved with girls and boys in schools. And it wasn't something that I thought I would do. Obviously, I was there to write a magazine, you know. That's what I thought I was getting myself into. But I think maybe unintentionally at the background, from my home village, I had unofficially sponsored a couple of young people orphans to enter into tertiary. So that was something that I was just doing, not in a formal structure. And I think 2 years into the UN, one kind of felt there's a bigger cause out there, there's a challenge, and gender-based violence has always been at its peak in South Africa. And even though today there's more media coverage of it, it's always been in our faces. And if you look in the spaces where young people are involved, especially at the high school, and there's a lot of bullying.
Yes.
There's a lot of masculinity. And I think one was really looking at it and saying, maybe one should get involved and try and do something. But I must also say that the inspiration itself came from the amazing young people that touched me when I went to the schools. And one of them is a guest today. So
Can I ask that if you are on the talk, can you mute yourself as well if you're jumping into the talk? That's all. Thank you,
Yeah.
Eric. Yes.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I was lucky enough that when COP17 came into the country, there were a group of young people. I was given the responsibility to bring in young people. And I didn't hesitate because through the structures that one had established, I had been able to find young people that were passionate about issues of gender-based violence, issues of the environment, and just issues of humanity. And that core group for me, when we were at COP17, when we gave them the opportunity, when the international media was looking at them, and I realized that there is space where you can give boys and girls and an opportunity to be equal and to thrive as well. And yeah, it's safe to say that we were also lucky that while I was at the UN, we had a partnership that allowed us to start working with the National Department of Basic Education and also Provincial Education Department. So the footprint into working became much easier.
Okay. And what made you choose the name Footprints? Because I can hear now you saying the footprints was was that the moment when you thought, okay, this should be the name of the organization?
So in 2012, I had the biggest challenge, which today I've never really answered most of the people. So I decided to quit the UN and kind of go reflect and say, I need to do something on my own. And it took a while for me to want to think through what it is that actually I should do. But one thing for certain was I needed to leave a mark. And what better way to leave a mark as a foot which people can follow and say, here walked someone else, maybe we can follow the path and make a world a better place.
Oh wow. Oh, that is beautiful. That is great to hear. Can you let us know some of the projects or programs that you guys run currently?
We
Like maybe, yeah,
Okay.
go for it, Nombuso.
yes.
Are you speaking about projects that we're doing during COVID-19 or just generally our program?
In general, and then we'll dive straight to the ones that you're doing now because of the pandemic and COVID-19.
Okay, so we've got different programs which are really all focused on school-going learners, both boys and girls. I'll start with the Always Keeping Girls in School program, our AKGIS, which focuses mainly on girls and providing free sanitary pads for girl learners in schools, because that is a real challenge. Period poverty is a real challenge. So we're trying to combat that through our AKGIS program, and we also educate girls about the reproductive system and menstruation and the hygiene and sanitation elements around it. So that also forms part of the AKGIS program, and we roll out that in more than 120 schools across the country.
Wow.
And yeah. And then we've got a Dignity PACS program, which when we sort of conceptualized it, we thought that we should think more inclusivity and think of a program that would also help boys. And I think that's where the Dignity PACS program was born. And what we do is similar in some ways to AKGIS in that we provide basic hygiene and sanitation products to girls, but also now we include boys. So we cover really cosmetic products, hygiene products. We also even cover school uniform for both boys and girls, and that's really been an important program. And we've tried to roll it out across the country in also our 120 schools, just really to include boys as well. And then we've got our Dear African Girl, the journal, which is a series of personal letters written by inspirational South African and African women. And they're all really writing a personal story to the average African girl and saying, this is my story and this is my dream for you. And this is what you can do to sort of achieve your dreams. And they encourage girls to stay in school. And we're hoping on that front that soon enough we'll be able to come up with a Dear African Boy journal. So I'm hoping some Seriti guys are ready to write.
I'm sure there's some guys who can round up for you.
Yeah, and then we've got our WASH model program, which is we took the UN's WASH sort of model, really, which is water, sanitation and hygiene. And what we do with that program is we try to design learner-friendly toilets and also girl-friendly toilets, because what we've seen from our other programs that enable us to access schools is that toilets are very unhygienic, and it's a shame that learners have to use them. Some really look like they're not off use, but it's what learners are exposed to. And so we tried to come up with a toilet design that could meet the water hygiene and sanitation elements from the UN, a toilet that could have, for example, a change room for girls that they could use when it's that time of the month for them, a toilet that had water, that had hand washing facilities, for example, which is something that most schools don't have. And water itself is an issue. There's no water. So we're trying to design toilets where learners are able to wash their hands after using the toilets, or at least have access to sanitizers. So that's something we are currently rolling out in the Limpopo province. There's a school that we chose and the toilets were in really bad shape. It's called Sasekani High School, and we are currently building our first learner-friendly toilets there. Yeah. And then, I feel like there's so many programs that I forget some of them. Mr. Eric, what other programs can we touch on?
I think as part of hygiene, there's the wash stand, the touchless stand.
Oh, yes.
So the wash stand, is that a portable wash stand or building wash stand?
So it's a portable wash stand which we've conceptualized actually as in response to the COVID-19 challenges, which basically we've taken water tanks and we're using a bit of street electrical engineering to power it. So you press on a foot and obviously it pumps itself and you're able to wash your hands, and which is something that we thought if you're looking at school environments, touching of taps and for us, I think it will be a nice addition into the hygiene component where you can actually wash hands. And obviously we're also thinking of the environment where we're currently exploring on how we can use the solar energy to power it, because right now we're using batteries.
Okay. And
oh yes, I'm sorry, I just remembered another very important program. We've got a program called I Know My Africa, and it's really just we kind of designed like a competition where participants from all over Africa could participate in a quiz and debates, and these debates would be based on African history, heritage, culture, you name it. And essentially the participants would have to research on what it means to be African, on what the background is, and then they could participate in the quiz. But it's something that we're still developing. It's going to be up on our website, and I think it's going to be really, really exciting as soon as people are able to be a part of it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow, that sounds like a lot of work that you guys are doing. And in 5 years, to have developed so many programs. And I think what's also really lovely to hear is that you guys are not just focusing on, like we said, just the girls, but you're also trying to see what do boys need, and maybe that society has overlooked in the season, where there are boys who also obviously are facing some challenges, facing abuse, need hygiene packs and assistance. So it's really lovely to see how you're trying to balance the two. But obviously the main focus started with some of the girls, and then you saw actually the boys need the help.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your Always Keeping Girls in School program. Obviously, that one is more focused on the eliminating period poverty. But you spoke about also 120 schools that you're working into. Tell us about the areas. Tell us about the challenges that those girls are facing and the stories you've heard on the ground. Eric, maybe you can share a little on
Okay, she will speak more about it. I think for me, I was there from the beginning in terms of the school identification. We worked very closely with the National Department of Basic Education, the Directorate of Social Equity and Cohesion, where they kind of said, focus on the quintile 1 to 3 schools, which are the most challenged schools where parents wouldn't necessarily afford. So that's the criteria we would have used to identify the schools in the first place. And obviously, what are the challenges there? The challenges is the learners wouldn't have the money. The parents are either working at a farm or they're unemployed or they're living under 20 rand a day in a household. The school infrastructure itself, when we start speaking about this, is the harder part because for example, our schools in Valwater, there are snakes in the toilets. So when the guys go there, come back, they will tell you the stories of, oh, you can't even visit the toilet because they know there's a snake staying next to the toilet because it's a pit toilet, right? But
that.
actually not a pit toilet. It's a pit toilet with a zinc structure. The third thing is that it's a pit toilet with a zinc structure, but actually unstable ground.
Yes.
And there you have kids that are expected to be using those facilities. And you would go maybe into a KZN area, Pine Town, where for us, it's challenging to access the learners. It's one of those areas where you know you have to go and do the work, but every time we go there, we get stuck. So every time they have to unhook the trailer from the kumbi because the trailer is full with pads and product and bags, but actually the surface is not drivable. And then you've got areas like Limpopo where we've got more beneficiaries. We have a challenge of transport because you can't fit enough of the product in our trailers that we hire. You also have a challenge of Nombuso has been very great at managing it. Maybe that's why she has so many degrees in trying to reach schools in one day, which could be between 80 and 100 kilometers apart. That on its own, it means that you have to be up by 5 o'clock. They have to drive. She has to manage it, but it has to work like a machine because when you enter a school environment, there's a procedure. You need to follow protocol.
Yes.
But these guys, they set 30 to 40 minutes time limit per school. And then you've got more hours for driving. And you find at the school, they reach 300 to 400 girls. I don't know how they do it. I used to do it long time ago. Mine was one school a day, and they do 3, 4 a day now. And you can imagine, we kind of pride ourselves by making sure that we deliver puberty education before handing the product to the girl. That needs to happen. And I think that's the differentiator. If you ask us, what is it that is different is that there is education. We teach on what actually is periods, what happens in your body. There's graphic illustrations, there's pictures, but actually we go as far as covering the hygiene component of this and this unity factor. How do you dispose a pad once you've used it? How then do you have to care for your environment? There are challenges. The schools don't have dustbins. The schools don't have municipal collection system that you enjoy the metropolitan. So you take this kind of information to a rural context, but we also know that those facilities are not there. If I say, do not destroy the environment, and maybe the only thing they have is an incinerator, and for us, that's the information that we take. It's also challenging because it's expensive. I will tell you of different models we've tried. I mean, in the beginning, I tried to hire local entrepreneurs with trucks or bakkies to help us to move product to schools. But a Pretty will charge me 5 rand, Nombuso will charge me 10 rand. So you've got an inconsistent pricing model that you must deal with, and you need to manage the money. And secondly, there's a whole lot of variables. Now Nombuso manages a budget which is just above $1 million and something in trying to reach these girls. But believe you me, some of the magic she does, they try to cook at these places, and then you ask yourself, after doing 3-4 schools and driving 500 k's, where do you get the time? But because the resources is still a challenge, they need to manage the process so that it's still comfortable. But we know the main priority is to make a difference. So, and for us, I think we were also not media savvy, or I will consider ourselves the doers more than the showers of what we do. So if someone wanted to see our work, you have to ask us, what are you actually doing on the ground? Or you're going to have to go and speak to the schools to say, what is it that you know? Yeah, so I think, but Nombuso can share more on the program because she's been driving. I mean, she took over from me. I started the groundwork, and I think she came over. She's done very great. I even lost touch of what she's doing now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are in Matsulu, bra. Your network is terrible. You must put an area on top of that mountain.
I think she's disappeared for a second. But also, you were talking about the schools. How do you build that relationship with principals? You know, some schools don't want to always have people coming in and out. Obviously,
can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're back. I can hear you now. We just don't see you yet.
A line is unstable. And so I think back to your question, Pretty.
Hello?
Because, yes, Nombuso, we can hear you, but we can't see you. So you can mute yourself for a minute, man. The challenge is, the advantage is that we were officially introduced by the department.
Yes.
Which I think is also one of our strengths, that we did not bypass the process.
Okay.
So when we go to the province, we report, right? And the directorate at national level, they have quarterly meetings where each provincial directorate that we work with will come and report. So national government doesn't even require a report from us. They will get it from the provincial people to say footprints was here. So if we've done something wrong, they will pick it up, because when they go to the central place, our work will be exposed. That has then made it easier for us to then work with the schools. But something earlier on quite happened, and at the time I didn't know that it was called monitoring and evaluation up until Seriti saved us. We made the school sign a form to say, we are participating in this program. And as a result, this is what the school will do. And this is what you can expect from us. So we said, we will provide your learners with 3 sanitary packs. We will provide puberty education. And on your turn, you as a school must allow us to get a form of learner signing. You ask information about school attendance, you will need to give us in order for you to be part of the program. So that early on created.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you, Nombuso.
So that from the beginning created a relationship where the schools then started their own small committees that will then work with us. So you find that at each school, there is a liaison person who's an educator, an official appointed by the school. But somewhere in between, we were lucky enough to have had extra funds. We hired what we used to call local facilitators. So we worked with the school to identify unemployed graduates. We were able to work with them for 1 year. We hired them. They became our kind of community liaison. So they will go to the school, and that in a way kind of bridged the gap and help cement the program so that we can work. I mean, most of the schools we've been working with now is 4 or 5 years and more. So it's a long-term relationship. They know, and when we are delayed coming, they will actually call you and say, why are you not coming? You know, what is happening? And sometimes it does happen that we delay. But I think we've really enjoyed great relationships. It is not the same. It is province-specific dynamics. Yes. It is also a school that, for example, our model is so mixed that if you want to understand it, it will take you a while. I know the Ministry of Women conducted a research and they said, you guys have different relationships because in KwaZulu-Natal, we've got one school called Bevu that is at a center of around 8 schools. So we work with that school to reach the others. And in the beginning, what happened was we were targeting that as the poorest school. So it got so much attention that the other schools around it started going to say, why don't you share with us?
Yes.
And Bevu will then recommend, okay, this school, I think and we kept expanding through that school. In Limpopo, we work directly with the provincial department that every visit in the beginning for 3 years, they will go with us to the schools. They will practically drive, follow us.
Wow.
And now it has stopped. Yes. Now it has stopped. They just are called, oh, have you guys gone to the schools? Can we get the report? And in the Free State, it was also a different dynamics. But I think we really have established great relationships.
No, that is, I think that people don't realize how important getting the community behind you in the work that you're doing can actually make your work and life so much easier. And I think also that's one thing we also like to follow as a model as Seriti. And we talk to the community, we get to know them. I mean, Simon, one of our managers, goes out there and talks to the people on the ground, whether it's the churches, whether it's the community leaders, because they kind of open the doors for you to do the work, and they do it with open arms as well. Now, where do you get your supplies or your products for the young girls? Do you have sponsors? Do you raise funds and then go purchase the sanitary towels? What system have you used recently?
So it's a mix of system, but I must say that we've been lucky to have had the backing of Procter & Gamble, who started by giving us support for 1,000 girls per province. Right now, it's now just about to reach 20,000, so it kind of grew. But we have innovatively been able to find different partners that will come and sponsor some of the schools that we've now added. I mean, I know in the beginning we had around 30 schools, it grew up, and we've just been expanding just by mixing. But the main sponsor for the Always Keeping Girls to School, as you can hear, the name is Always, one of the brand from Procter & Gamble.
Yes, sure. And that's amazing. And then with Always, is there a partnership there with Always?
So it is a long-term partnership, which annually we look at what we're going to deliver, how many people learners are we going to reach. They will then say, we're going to fund you to reach these numbers. They then make a budget available for the sanitary towels, for us to travel. In the last 2 years, they then said, okay, maybe you also need to store the product. Can we cover some of the costs for the storage? And last year, they were generous. They bought us a kumbi, which we now proudly use to visit the stores. It has saved us a lot of money.
Yes,
we were
I can imagine.
Best friend. So now we have our own jalopy, which unfortunately in 1 year, Nombuso has clocked 100,000. So because she goes all these provinces. Always has been a great partner to the project, and they continuously support the foundation in different ways. When the Global Citizen event came to the country, they put us in the spotlight. I mean, we had everyone coming to one of our beneficiary schools, and they brought Bonang to be one of the project ambassadors. Nombuso got to speak as one of the speakers at Global Citizen, which I was like, wow, such a great space to speak.
That is wonderful.
Fox TV. Yeah, so I think the partnership has been great for us.
Yes. Also, could you tell us a little bit, now welcome back.
Thank you.
If you can share with us just some of the stories of the girls that you have have heard and seen, and how COVID-19 right now has made things challenging or difficult for you guys? Have you faced any
Mhm.
challenges, especially with getting products out there? Like, what
Yeah,
what happens in
yeah,
the season of COVID-19, and what happens to those girls?
yeah. I think some of them Mr. Eric touched on, and I mean, I think we see different challenges faced by girls in different areas. So, for example, as he was saying, like when we went to Falvater, it was, one of the saddest things for us to experience was that girls couldn't even access their toilets because they were afraid of snakes. And that could really set you back. It means you can't change your pad while you're at school because you can't have access to that privacy and be in the toilets. But also, I think some of the things that we've learned is that there's a lot of myths around periods. Some of the stories we've heard were really shocking, and I think that's where the puberty education that we give the girls matters. And it's so important that we bring a professional to do it, because girls will tell you they've got different remedies that they use to ease period pains, for example. And when you listen to some of these things, it's scary. They will tell you about chopping onions and using them, or sitting on top of something, or drinking vinegar. They'll tell you about all the taboos that are related to menstruation, about how the community considers, if you're a girl and you have your periods at 10 years old, then you're a naughty girl. It means you've been sleeping with boys, or you've been naughty, or something like that. And we know that that's not the reality, and it's so important for us to dismantle those myths, because they can really be damaging. But we've met, all our beneficiaries come from really disadvantaged backgrounds, and they've got different stories. Some of them were lucky that they're very close to us, like Mr. Eric was saying. We were even speaking about them this morning. We've got girls in, for example, Ekurhuleni in Johannesburg, that we've sort of adopted as a foundation, because we were telling the stories of all our other 15,000 plus beneficiaries, using them during the time of filming for Global Citizen. And we got to visit their homes, and I mean, our girls live in shacks. They have to share a one room with their siblings and their mothers and their fathers. And thinking about that for us is really sad. And when you think that you're only just coming to ease one element of their life, and just to make sure that they don't have to worry about pads, because for us it's also a dignity issue, but they've also got these underlying challenges back at home. So we're really dealing with indigent girls and indigent families. And that's why I think right now during COVID-19, we are trying to access them, but we're facing challenges, of course, because we know that schools are closed, and that's our main way of reaching them. So if we can't get them at schools, then that's a challenge. I mean, maybe the 3 other girls, we could have gone directly to their homes, but we've got 15,000 plus that we don't know where they stay. The only way we connect is through school. So it's been challenging for us to get to them, but we've tried. I know not so long ago, we were in Harding trying to reach our girls there in Harding, and making sure that we give more than just sanitary pads this time, because the call is greater during COVID-19. And I know the team with Mr. Eric had gone down there, and they donated food parcels as well to the families of the girls that we have in Harding. And we're really trying to do the same for Limpopo province, for Mpumalanga province, for Gauteng. We're trying to reach our girls, and we're trying to get to their families so that we can donate food parcels as well. And I guess we were just lucky that we are in the position to even be able to do that. And in some way, we have to think about creative ways of raising money to make sure that we deliver on that. And one of those ways is our sanitizer dispenser station that we are trying to get funding for, so that schools can have them and learners can have access to sanitizer. And if we get funding for that, then we can use some of that money to buy more food parcels, because it's really so important right now. But yeah, we really struggle to get to our girls. We're still struggling, and you know, because we can't just pitch up. Even now, some of the schools are open, but we can't just rock up and give them. There's policies in place. We had Angie saying, Ma'am Angie Mtacha saying she doesn't want visitors at schools, and so it's difficult for us. But we're trying to maneuver around everything, because at the end of the day, we know that our learners need us, and so do their families at this time.
I
Yeah.
think maybe on the challenges and what we've done. Currently, we've reached 330 learners and their families with during the COVID time. And what we've also done as part of the African Menstrual Hygiene Committee, we've gotten the Minister of Social Development to write to all the provincial education MECs to ask for permission. Obviously, it's tricky because they're saying no one at school, and we haven't really had great joy. I mean, they're just saying they're working on it, and that would then allow us to reach more learners at this time. But obviously, it doesn't mean that we're stopping for looking for avenues. We partnered with Seriti to reach the Alexander learners that are part of one of your organizations that you support. And we're looking for other avenues as well to try and reach the learners.
Mm. Yeah, I think the season has really taught a lot of NPOs, civil society organizations to relook strategies, logistics, processes, because we want to get to the ground. We want to help. You guys want to touch those girls' lives, because you know they're still in need. And that's the sad thing. And why we use that statement, periods don't stop because of a pandemic.
Yes.
So the need is still there, and it's still as urgent. It's just like, now what is the mechanism? What is the vehicle to help us get there? And things like permits were a difficult thing to get to in the first month of lockdown. That was a challenge. And even now, if you do have a permit, you guys work in cross provinces. So there's dealing with provincial borders as such, and that is another big issue. So all your products generally would come from Gauteng and then would be transported to all those areas.
So that is the strategy. It's only one execution which we did now as part of COVID, which was at Kuruman, Northern Cape, where we sourced all the product in Kimberley. And in the planning, it was like, okay, we'll go. And we had overlooked one thing, that all the trailer shops were closed. So after buying all the product, we were now stuck with all this product. And but also just networking helped us find a trailer in the last minute, and for us to deliver. But we move stuff from here because it's easier and cheaper to have one storage facility, as opposed to having multiple centers, which now will put more risk into the product that you have. It will open more challenges for us, but also increase the cost as well.
No, you guys are doing an amazing job, despite what you face, and to be able to reach so many girls. I mean, you said 15,000 or so.
Yeah.
And how big is your team that helps you on the ground? Outside of the facilitators, maybe, to start with just your core team, and then how many facilitators?
There's like there's like 4 of us at the office, and that's including the driver.
Wow. And you do so much.
Yeah. So when we do travel, there's always like 4 of us, the driver, and we'll have an assistant, and then myself, and then the puberty educator. So it's always 4 of us, whether we're at the office or outside. It's just 4 people.
Wow. I honestly give you guys an applause, because that is a big job, and such a small team. It's such a good example for some of us, that we don't have to have all these resources and all these people sometimes to just have an impact. And I can imagine the communities are so grateful when they see you guys coming down the road. the dusty roads, maybe sometimes in the most rural areas. But
Yeah.
for that smaller team to do such a big job across the country is remarkable.
And a useful team, these guys
Yes.
are students. That's what she's not mentioning. That, and I think for me that's the most exciting thing, that you're working with people that are focused and they're studying, but the way they manage their calendars to be able to do it. She just told you she completed a master's. I don't know where she gets the time, but yeah.
Any other just comments as we're drawing slowly to a close here? Any thoughts and personal things that you would want to share, or to us who are listening and learn, like some lessons that you've learned? I know you obviously became a Seriti partner through our Seriti social partner training, and that's how we connected. Do you remember when that was, Eric? When you
That's been a year and a half ago.
Yes.
So the course and applied, and it took a while, and finally we were considered. I don't know why, but we're really grateful that you did. We really learned a lot, and especially that you help us to come up with a monitoring framework, and I think it's really helping us as we go. We also attended a social media training, which we also struggled with it because the team has really been focusing on working. For some reason now, coronavirus has helped other people to sit at home and really take up. I don't know what happened. But I want to say that thank you to Nombuso and the team, because I think the call is bigger, and I think they understand the vision. The fact that they can speak about the foundation and what we aim to do and drive the programs and such a small team, for me, I think it's humbling. And I mean, last year we were honored to have been invited by the Obama Foundation to be part of the Girls Alliance.
Wow.
Which is something amazing for us. We've also been lucky that we've had one of the global agencies called VML. They have a brand in South Africa, VML, to adopt us and give us a workspace. They have also decided to spend close to R1 million rebranding. So we're going to have a new brand, a new website. That is exciting. The fact that people are reaching out and saying, hey, you know what, we see what you're doing, and we will meet you halfway. For us, I think we're working towards sustainability. We, in most of our programs, and what we try to come up with is, can we be sustainable for another year? Nombuso, with all the overqualifications, can she get a decent salary and not stand in the court and claim to be a lawyer, but be a yes? As the questions that at an immediate level, we don't really have the resources. We're trying to, it's also very difficult to fundraise for administrative overheads and all those things, which is a big challenge. But we've managed to find ways to skin the cat and navigate around it. And hopefully in 2-3 years, Nombuso can lead a foundation that makes a difference to young people. As a young person, she can have a team of 10, 15 people that can go around. She stops running around and a difference, you know.
Okay, that is so wonderful. I've got 2 questions here. One from Simon, one of our project managers here at Seriti. Simon, you can unmute yourself and maybe present your question.
I think, yeah, mine is sort of a question. Oh, hi, Eric. Mine, I think it's a question and disguise. Well, I suppose joined to a comment as well. I think firstly, I'd like to thank Eric and Footprints Foundation for partnering with us to distribute sanitary towels in Alexandra. I think that project went very well. Now, I'm going to add to your problems, Footprints Foundation. Because everywhere we go, I keep getting requests, you know, for interventions in as far as, you know, sanitary, you know, towels are concerned. How then do we, you know, sort of expand what we did in Alex and take it into other areas of, you know, in other areas that we work in? I mean, I'll give you an example. On Friday, we were in the Northwest Province, and in a small village called Mfidigwe. It's a mining village. And if you just look at, you know, just the levels of poverty in that area, and there's just young girls, you know, roaming the streets, how then do we come in and, you know, through the work that we do and what, you know, Footprints does, how can you then help support us and the young girls in that area? And that's not the only community, by the way. There's going to be others. So as we move into different communities, how can we partner and ensure that at least we walk the road together?
Well, I think firstly, let me say we welcome the challenge. It's something that we've lived for the last 5 years. And I'm glad that earlier on you asked of the programs and Nombuso was able to share more of what we do. In the beginning, we looked more like a PADS kind of foundation. That's how it looked like. Nombuso knows now, like I'm like, we not always, we try to be Footprints and we have that partnership. So one, I think we, as part of celebrating 5 years, we are trying to launch the Power of One. And the Power of One is, we want to drive it throughout the whole year, where a person can donate R1 into a kitty. Where if you're in South Africa, it's R1. If you're in Zimbabwe, it will be $1, Zimbabwean dollar. If you're in Britain, it will be £1. If you're in the US, it will be one. The reason being, PNG has given us the platform to say, we can procure sanitary towel at a discounted rate. But we don't have the fundraising mechanism to allow us to have a kitty to buy and give you or partner with Seriti to make a difference. The product that gets given, so it's a fight between me and Nombuso. She needs to report on the 3,000 packs that she's given to PNG, and it goes rand for rand. And you should see how brutal they are when they come for their pads. The only covering mechanism is when we give Seriti their pads or we partner with Seriti, we make sure we can account pad for pad. So that has allowed us to partner and be able to give. But I think we need to move beyond and take this advantage of the fact that we can access the product. And I think once we drive a buying power capacity, we can then probe for them to match what we would have raised with our own money. To say, oh, by the way, as a partner, we've bought for 100,000. Do you want to add 100,000 on top of this? Then that kitty becomes for all these other emails. Because you can imagine, we have government asking from us, by the way. For the last 3 years, the Women's Office, when there's Women's Day, they come to us. We've got the Ministry of Women, Minister's Office asking from us. And then we've got all these partner organizations. So it gets so stretched so much that sometimes it feels like I'm saying no or yes, but we always come up with innovative ways to do it. So I would say, if Seriti can join us in the Power of One, we make noise and we can create we can buy the pad. That's the one thing that I think we're putting on the table. And then we can find a joint storage and say, this is where our product is stored. When we go to Madikwe, in the truck, we're gonna put 10 boxes because we already know that there is a need. So I don't really have the answer now, but I think the answer, we can just jointly come up with it.
Thank you for that, Eric.
Can I just add that to the question, Simon, that we've tried to, you know, work and donate pads and other stuff, obviously, outside of what we do for Always and outside of that strictly 120 schools network. If we were to say how many schools we do a year, it's not that 120, we do so many more. And I mean, we were in Northwest in the beginning of this year, and we were donating like heads that we received from Momentum, for example, or from people at VML. And we just found schools in Marikana and surrounding communities, and we donated there. And that doesn't go into the Always report, for example. So whenever we get like product from, because to be fair, some corporates really do donate to us, and then that's like a different thing from what we have with Always, and we have more freedom to donate that. We take the opportunity to do that. We've done work with, for example, Teba, which is really invested in mining, and you know, if they give us money to make a difference in schools, then obviously we look outside our firm 120 network. So we do try to spread our wings outside. And sometimes it's not even schools, we get requests from everywhere. I mean, churches are always writing to us, community centers are always writing, and sometimes they're lucky you write and there's a box sitting right in front of us, you know, full of lilac pads or Cortex, and it's easy for us to say, okay, can we meet here, or can we deliver, or can you come and get them at the office? So it's little things like that that do happen, but I think for the scale to be bigger, you really need to support the power of one. Yeah.
There's a new initiative. There's just another two questions. One from Ilana. Thank you, Ilana, for your question. She says, hi, would Footprints be open to working with another NGO, Dignity Dreams, who manufacture reusable feminine hygiene products?
Yes, I mean, obviously that's in line with government strategy to say freedom of choice. For me, I think it's what is on the table. What is it that we should be doing? Who are we targeting at? It's a product that obviously, if there's a funding for us to take it to a target market. Right now, as we were saying, the challenge is most organizations that are manufacturing would expect us to buy.
Yes.
And we don't have that capacity to be able to. But if there's an innovative way in which Dignity Dreams is saying, let's look at an avenue, this is how maybe there's a funding enriching, it will actually even increase the numbers of who we're supposed to be. We don't have an exclusivity deal with anyone to say we can distribute. We are an independent NGO that is doing work, and I think definitely we can look at it.
Okay, and then Prince Mtandazo, you can ask your question. I hope it's short and quick.
Thank you so much, Pretty, for allowing me to comment. Hi, everyone. Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. You guys are doing amazing work. I just wanted to say that we are also really grateful for the donation of the sanitary pads as well as the journals for our girls at Paramani Young Minds Academy. I think you guys are doing very good work. And the other thing is, I believe that during this time of COVID-19, it is also important for us to actually look at increasing SR spaces, especially for these young girls, because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, there are sort of like some barriers which will definitely be affecting those girls. For example, they wouldn't be able to access any public health systems. So I think you're doing like great work in terms of trying to sort of like meet this need and having to reduce maybe any complications for those girls. And yeah, I think you're doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, there was another last question here. Are you still there, Prince?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. That was your only question, right?
Yeah, that was the only question. Just to comment on how also our girls did benefit from Footprints Foundation. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And just, yes, one last question from Kamena, one of our associates she's in Spain. So she sent a question, says, have you tried using more sustainable channels for menstruation? Example, cups. I'm not exactly sure, but that could be similar maybe to the reusable menstrual pads. So I think you've answered that question as well, which was really helpful. May I ask that everyone who's participated, if you want to leave your email address with me in the chat, and then what I will do is I will send a link of the recording of today's Seriti Talks to you. That way you can share it with your network of people who you know who might be able to help and assist footprints, or who want to partner with them, or it's just an opportunity also for collaboration. And so if you can just drop your email address just there on our chat, and then we will send you guys a link and give you more details, and we can assist each other. Like Pagamani Young Minds was one of our speakers a couple of weeks back who work with young people, and they were able to get assistance from Footprints. And so that is one of our desires with the Seriti Talks platform, is not just to hear the stories, but then to realize and find out who's doing similar work, or how can we partner to have a greater impact in our communities. I would love to thank both of you, Eric and Nombuso, for having the time today to chat with us as we come to the close of celebrating our Youth Month and our young people and the great work these civil society organizations are doing to help them. And thank you to everyone who's attended. Hope you keep warm during the winter. It's getting colder, and that we keep in touch as we go along. Thank you to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
See you at our next Seriti Talks. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You'll find out our next topics for the month of July.
Thank you, Pretty.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.